Hello and welcome to CTV News Across Canada. For Wednesday, February 26th, we have got the top local stories from coast to coast, stories that affect you and our country. Thanks for joining us.
UCP MLA Peter Guthrie previously called for the health minister to be removed amid a private health care contract scandal.
An absolute bombshell in a series of bombshells that have been going off for the past 2 weeks.
Instead, he's resigning as Alberta's Minister of Infrastructure. In a letter to Premier Smith, he expressed concerns regarding the government's procurement practices across all departments, noting that Cabinet does not appear to share his concerns and that he's stepping aside to hold his party members accountable.
It really just points further in the direction from someone inside the room that there are major concerns about breach of trust when it comes to this government.
The news follows allegations in a lawsuit filed by the former head of Alberta Health Services that the province was pressuring AHS to make surgical contract deals favoring private businesses. But at the legislature, cabinet ministers are standing behind the premier.
You know what? A guy quit. That's all I can tell you. He had the right to do that. It's just an ordinary day. People quit their jobs every day.
I don't feel any concern about the unity of either caucus or cabinet.
I would refer you to the Premier's statement, and we'll go from there.
Premier Smith accepted Guthrie's resignation, insisting his concerns were serious and were under investigation, but she did not thank him for his service. The opposition NDP adding Health Minister Adriana LaGrange should have been the one to step down.
Every single member of that UCP caucus today is asking themselves, do I want to be the one holding the bag when the music stops?
The RCMP is now reviewing the allegations, the Auditor General investigating, and the government ordering a third-party inquiry.
How is individual ministerial responsibility coming into play? Where is it like if people knew, that means that they are responsible for resigning?
But back in Cochrane, Guthrie's constituents are torn.
Stepping down if there's allegations of corruption, I say yeah. Definitely do it.
Lately, politics are all messed up anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Let's just hope that all turns out because, things are a little bit turmoil these days.
Inside this apartment building, a brutal attack took place late last year.
He's just a guy trying to make it in this world,
Police say on December 27th, a 32-year-old man was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries after he was swarmed by a group of people attending an after-hours event here. CTV has learned that man is Jaron Drew, a comedian originally from Montreal. His friend Todd Ross says he helped Drew secure a room in this building only days before the attack.
We were talking about what a great 2025 we were going to have in comedy. And
Ross says Drew has severe brain damage and was in intensive care for over a month. He says doctors initially predicted he would not survive.
I thought he was going to die. I was told he was going to die, and when I got to him, it was just like unbelievable.
He did survive, and Ross says he's awake and communicating now, but there's a long road ahead. Police say Drew's family will be managing the lifelong impacts of this attack. 7 people have been charged in connection with the attack. 2 17-year-old boys are facing attempted murder charges, and a 16-year-old is facing a charge of aggravated assault. Criminologist and former EPS officer Dan Jones says the swarming attacks he saw in his career were mostly done by younger people.
It's that young pack mentality, I think, that comes around, and they get into whatever situation, and then they all jump in on it, right?
Jones believes the 7 accused may have experienced some sort of trauma at a young age, which could have led to this type of violent attack.
It's kitschy and it's cliche, but hurt people, right? And you're not healthy and well if you're going to swarm someone and attack them. And
what's their trajectory for life if you can do this kind of a beating on somebody?
Police say all 7 suspects were unknown to the victim. Nav Sanga, CTV News, Edmonton.
Like you can see the traffic light partially underneath my car.
Christy Heaver says she will never forget her Wednesday night drive home.
It was a very traumatizing experience, considering the fact that if I would have been couple inches forward, that would have landed on my roof, and who knows where I would be today.
She says she was headed west on the perimeter highway when out of nowhere, a turning light pole fell on her car. At the time, she says she was driving 90 kilometers per hour in the middle lane, passing through the provincial road 330 intersection.
I was just doing my normal thing, driving straight, and the next thing I knew, it was just there.
She says the pole bounced off her hood and she slammed on her brakes. Heaver says the pole hit the pavement in front of her and she drove over it before coming to a stop.
It all kind of seems like a blur, but so clear at the same time. I just want someone to be held accountable because the situation could have really been a lot worse.
According to the province, perimeter highway traffic lights are regularly monitored and routinely maintained by Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure. A provincial spokesperson wrote in a statement, prior to the collision that occurred on February 19th at the intersection of Provincial Trunk Highway 100 and Provincial Road 330, the department last inspected the traffic signal installation in January 2023, where it was found to be in good condition. Winnipeg police say officers were on the scene to direct traffic after the incident, but said there's no criminal investigation. Heaver doesn't know what caused the light to fall. She denies hitting it and believes the cause is the result of negligence.
There should be no reason why it just randomly falls over on a non-windy day.
An engineer working for a company who makes breakaway traffic light bases like the ones at this intersection tells CTV News never has one fallen without a specific reason. Heaver is aware the chances of a light falling without cause are remote. It's why she's tracked down a witness to corroborate her story. Heaver provided screenshots of their conversation where the witness confirmed her account.
But I am definitely very paranoid whenever I drive under a city light because I never know if it's going to fall.
The pole has since been put back up. However, Heaver won't see it because she won't be going this way anytime soon. Michelle Gerwing, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Most people who bought in the Janyan building in Victoria saw the micro units as an investment that they could legally list on short-term rental sites like Airbnb.
A city like Victoria had approximately 600 short-term rentals that were licensed through the municipality that were operating as a short-term rental, and it was a lawful operation.
But under the province's new short-term rental law, in major cities, it's only legal to list principal residences or secondary suites. Owners at the Janyan have been forced to find a long-term tenant for a unit that wasn't built for that purpose.
This is someone's property that they purchased, they worked their entire life for. It doesn't make sense for someone to come in and tell them what to do with it.
So the West Coast Association for Property Rights filed a lawsuit asking the BC Supreme Court to carve out an exception for owners who bought purpose-built short-term rental units before the new law was introduced. On Tuesday, that court challenge was dismissed.
Our group is deeply disappointed.
But the housing minister is elated.
Our goal around short-term rentals was to get more housing available for people in our communities, and it's working. Rents are coming down every month. We've seen rents come down. We're seeing an increased amount of housing supply, so we're pleased the Supreme Court made that decision, and we can continue on with our work.
In throwing out the lawsuit, the judge said it was premature and left the door open for a further court challenge.
There's many options still on the table for understanding. I mean, we've constructed an argument. Obviously, an appeal process is an understanding of a pathway that we could continue down.
The owners will keep up the legal fight, but the province shows no sign of backing down. Shannon Patterson, CTV News.
For the entire 45-minute question period, the CAQ was grilled about the SAC Click program. The Minister of Digital Technology saying the government was lied to. The SAAQ's digital portal launched in 2023. It was originally budgeted at $638 million. Now it's likely to cost over $1.1 billion. Last week, the Auditor General issued a scathing report describing SAC Click as a total failure. The Transport Minister says when it comes to how bad the situation was, the government was misled. Now Quebec is opening 2 investigations to figure out what went wrong. Geneviève Guilbeault says it's a good thing this will be examined by Quebec's anti-corruption unit. In a letter to UPAC, she says the Auditor General's report sheds light on major shortcomings in the administration of the biggest digital transformation project in the province, including incomplete planning, a cost increase that could reach $1.1 billion, 40% more than originally estimated, and sharing incomplete and erroneous information to the government. it. She goes on to say the facts stated by the Auditor General are outrageous. The opposition calls it a lack of ministerial responsibility.
How can there be so many people involved, and at the end, nobody does anything useful regarding more than $500 million?
The only way to do it is to have a public inquiry.
We want to know what part of responsibility is coming from the SAC and also coming from the minister.
The Premier counters those ministers weren't properly informed.
Le gouvernement avait été mal informé. Point final.
The head of the SAAQ at the time was removed in 2023. But 2 years later, the situation described by all parties as a fiasco still isn't over. Kelly Gregg, CTV News, Quebec City.
For a week now, crews have been working around the clock, clearing and removing thousands of tons of snow. But navigating sidewalks and narrow residential streets continues to be a challenge.
Sidewalks still remain, inaccessible for a lot of elderly people.
It's hard to get around, right? I've had to push at least a half dozen cars out of spots in our neighborhood.
The city says its crews have removed more than 10,000 dump truck loads of snow, but the mayor expressing frustration at the pace.
This is just unacceptable. We need to do more. We need to do better.
Now calling on the city manager and auditor general to immediately review the snow clearing operations as well as the contracts with private companies,
including how to optimize the resources and review the contracts. Let us look at the options, including renegotiating or breaking the contracts.
Those contracts were approved back in 2021 under then Mayor John Tory. Councillor Paul Ainsley voted against it.
Things have to change. People expect, as I said, value for their money. They want their tax dollars to work.
The GM of Transportation Services says the complex job is going as planned, but is aware of the mayor's requests.
We are committed to continuous improvement and have put significant focus on finding ways to further enhance our winter service delivery in the future.
Olivia Chow particularly taking concern with sidewalk clearing on residential streets.
I was repeatedly told that 100% of the sidewalk had been plowed. I'm sorry, it is not.
So I've said that they were plowed. I didn't say that they were cleared.
There are mountains of snow stored in city yards and melting has begun. City staff say contractors are meeting performance standards in the contract for snow clearing.
We do not have in the contracts service levels for snow removal, which is what we're doing now.
Maintaining it will take 3 weeks to complete the job as originally estimated. And the mayor said today that this issue will be discussed at the upcoming executive committee meeting next month. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Mike.
Most measles exposures have been in healthcare settings, including emergency rooms, clinics, and pharmacies. But an exposure on the 17th was at the East Elgin Community Complex, leading health professionals to again stress how easily measles can spread and the importance of avoiding public contact if you have symptoms.
Measles is highly infectious. It's spread by airborne. So if anyone who has shared the same indoor airspace for almost any period of time, they could potentially be exposed.
Trent says the virus is resilient, remaining in the air for up to 2 hours. Symptoms include a cough, runny nose, and fever, which is then followed by a rash. Along with the exposure period at the community complex in Aylmer, Southwestern Public Health reported 5 other exposure periods last week, 2 at the St. Thomas Elgin General Hospital and 3 at Woodstock Hospital. The Middlesex London Health Unit reported 2 exposure periods at the Children's Hospital Pediatric Emergency Waiting Room.
If your child needs care, they need care.
Dr. Janice Mock is resident physician with the Middlesex London Health Unit. She wants to ensure potential exposures don't deter people from going to the ER.
I know our partners are doing their best to keep everyone safe and make sure that they get the care that they need.
For those who are symptomatic and wanting to seek medical attention, health professionals say it's best to alert the hospital before arriving.
Please call ahead to the emergency department so that the staff can take precautions and make sure we keep our community safe.
Southwestern Public Health has reported 42 measles cases since the beginning of January. That's in addition to 26 cases last year. They stress that 2 doses of measles vaccine offers almost complete protection. In Aylmer, Jerry DeWan, CTV News.
The province is making changes to target fentanyl and meth in 3 ways: by getting drugs out of communities, deterring people from using them, and by punishing those who profit off of other people's suffering.
Certainly coming down heavily on the people who would profit off of the pain and suffering of others, but recognizing the users and the addiction is not a crime.
The province could implement fines of up to $1 million and allow offenders to receive a credit if they attend eligible addictions programming. Another move would allow police to remove someone if drugs are used in a semi-public space, like a restaurant, without having to take a statement or have someone testify in court.
What this piece of legislation or this expansion may offer the police in terms of additional tools that they may have in their toolkit.
The changes could also see drug-related items like needles classified as weapons.
Using a balanced approach and giving us the capacity and the ability to deal with things in a lawful manner with a piece of legislation that provides that authority is a good thing.
Offenders could have their driver's or hunting license canceled and in some cases suspend government benefits. Saskatoon Tribal Chief Mark Arcand is in favor of harsher penalties, but until that happens, he feels moves like this can help save lives.
We need to arm the police with every tool we can to make sure that our community is safe. Keep people safe, whether it's small, medium, or large. This is a good thing to really hold people accountable and transparent.
McLeod couldn't put a timeline on when changes will take effect, but some work has already begun, while other parts will require legislative approval in the spring session. Keenan Sorakan, CTV News, Saskatoon.
On any given day, Rachel and her friends can be found in the Byward Market.
We go here for lunch quite a bit. We often eat at the Byward Cafe and the surrounding stores and restaurants.
Even in the slower months, the area is seeing an increase in visitors. And while it looks good on paper, some business owners say it's not necessarily translating into sales.
Sometimes it can be just ill-thought, some initiatives that are enacted without consultation that can really affect how we're able to do business or not.
One of those initiatives, a synthetic skating rink on William Street that failed to draw big crowds. The road is being turned into a pedestrian-only street as part of a deal between Ottawa and the province to help revitalize downtown.
Loading will still happen, drop-offs will still happen. It's still a functional area. It's just not a main road as it once formerly operated.
But some business owners are questioning whether closing the street year-round is the best idea.
When the street is shut down in the winter, there's not the possibility of police vehicles going by. There aren't enough eyes, and it makes for extra problems.
And while the market has faced its fair share of challenges, from crime to homelessness and parking, the Byward Market District Authority is moving forward with a new strategy to promote the area.
What we're trying to do with the new marketing campaign is really highlight the wonderful things that are going on down here so we can start from the bottom and build our way back up.
Pointing to the opening of History Ottawa, a new music and entertainment venue next year.
They're planning 150 to 200 shows a year, and that 2,000 people, they have to go somewhere, they have to park somewhere, they have to eat somewhere, they want to shop. All of those things are going to help play into that, so we need to be able to leverage that.
The hope, more people will also mean more business.
Bottom line is that people attract people. The more people we get, the more advertising we get, and the more foot traffic we get, the better that would be to increase sales in all the businesses.
The city is going to use the funding from the province to redesign William Street to be pedestrian only. We're expected to learn more about what that could look like when it comes to things like lighting and seating in May. Matt?
Okay, CTV's Caitlin Wilson live for us tonight. Thank you, Caitlin.
It's the first day of a new look at Irving Paper, with 140 less workers and operations reduced by half at its Bayside Drive facility.
That was not good news for the city of St. John yesterday.
Mayor Donna Reardon calls the news sad, but is an evolution of the times, with the facility manufacturing graphic paper for use in magazines, catalogs, newspapers, and advertising flyers.
I lived in a time when the arrival of the catalog was an event, but I don't even know if anyone produces a catalog anymore.
Just over 100 of those laid off were members of Unifor. The Atlantic Regional Director for the union says they will fight to save as many jobs as possible.
Mr. Irving has been very clear that there is 45 days between now and the termination of this work. And so we know we have 45 days to make any change if we can.
The layoffs were a result of New Brunswick's uncompetitive industrial electricity rates. NB Power says rates are based on the cost of providing electricity to residential and industrial customers. A statement by the utility sent to CTV reads in part, "We are committed to doing everything we can to reduce the rate pressure on customers. At the same time, we have a responsibility to maintain and invest in our system to ensure all New Brunswickers have the power they need when they need it." Neither Premier Susan Holt or Natural Resources Minister John Herron was made available for an interview for a second straight day. Official opposition leader Glenn Savoy, who is also the MLA for St. John East where the facility resides, questions the province's lack of public response.
They promised New Brunswickers that they had this under control, that if they were elected, that they would be able to handle the situation that existed in the province at the time, and that they could handle whatever's coming. And to see that neither her nor her energy minister is answering to this is very disappointing.
Savoy says when the legislator returns in mid-March, he will be asking why the government is slow to react to the needs of 140 people without a job in his riding. Irving McRae, CTV News, St. John.
February's been a tough month downtown Orillia right now, so it's but you know we're all working together and we're trying to get through it.
It's tough to see most of the damage from ground level, but the building that was once home to walking on a cloud has been deemed unsafe after the roof collapsed during the supper hour last night.
We just heard like some blast, like boom, something like that, and we were like scared. What was happening?
That boom sound was the roof crashing through next door. Thoughts from officials? Too much heavy snow on the building.
So the roof is it's a collapse of the roof, and then the walls would be they're not collapsed yet, they're just leaning, but the roof is a collapse.
The building was vacant, and the owner of the building has hired contractors to determine how much damage has been caused. The city expects it will have to come down.
An old building used to be cut-up shoes. Goes back. My law office was here at one time.
Ralph Sapola is a city councillor with a business of his own in the downtown. He says the city is asking people to avoid the immediate area.
It could collapse. Depends if we get a wind or the snow has now melted up on top, my understanding, talking to the fire department. So it could collapse even more. So please stay away from the area.
The roof collapse is the third major snag to everyday life in the city's downtown. Of course, the massive snowfall this winter and last month's major fire just blocks away.
Bad things come in threes, so now, as far as I'm concerned, we've got the rest of the year is going to be amazing.
Another collapse reported yesterday, this one at Starport Marina. Several boats were reportedly damaged after a steel-roofed boathouse collapsed. These pictures posted on social media. While it is widely expected the building will have to be taken down, a contractor's assessment will have to confirm that. I'm told by the city until that happens, this section of West Street in front of the Opera House will remain closed. Rob Cooper, CTV News, Orillia.
In the town of Amherstburg, policing has been handled by the nearby city of Windsor for about 6 years now. But late 2024, the city said that would end, citing rising costs.
You can agree to something at the beginning, and once you've started in January of 2019 and you've operationalized that agreement over the course of better part of 5 working on 6 years, now we know what it costs and we know we're too close to the bone.
At Town Council Monday night, Amherstburg leaders saying multiple paths forward are being considered, including reestablishing its own municipal police service, which Mayor Michael Prue says is unlikely due to resource limitations, contracting the OPP, partnering with LaSalle Police, or even forming a county-wide police force. Prue says he feels Amherstburg has not been treated fairly by Windsor.
We're going to go back and talk to them and see exactly what they want, but I'm not being held hostage. There are other options we have, and we're going to explore those as well.
This is not about holding anyone hostage or under the barrel, but I think anyone can appreciate that from a financial perspective, it has to make sense for the Windsor Police and the City of Windsor to be able to provide policing to that town without having Windsor taxpayers subsidize the cost.
Currently, the OPP oversees policing in all of Essex County except for LaSalle, Amherstburg, and Windsor. Essex County Warden Hilda McDonald says a single police force for all municipalities outside Windsor may not work for everyone, particularly in LaSalle, where residents may want to keep their own service. But she also says rising costs mean tough decisions ahead.
That's the part where you have to plug your nose and say, okay, but we're saving money, we're more efficient. but we don't have the service level that we used to have when we had our own policing.
I've always championed a regional police, but I don't know that there's any appetite for that out there. I really don't know.
And as you heard there, one option Amherstburg is considering is to partner up with LaSalle Police. I did reach out today to LaSalle Mayor Crystal Malash, who says through a statement there are still many unanswered questions here, like what level of service Amherstburg expects and what it would take to make it happen. Before LaSalle could even consider providing a cost estimate, she expects more discussions in the coming weeks. As for Amherstburg Mayor Prue, he says the future of policing in the town will be back on the table by this fall. Stephanie.
Okay, and we will continue to follow it. Sanjay Mar tonight with our top story. Thank you, Sanjay.